Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. And my name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum ventures studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. Our background is artificial intelligence. We've been involved in AI for 26 years, generative AI, unsupervised AI for 9, and we're looking for the best companies in the world that are interested in going global using Silicon Valley as a port. And so with that, I'd like to bring my incredible guest, Brett Calhoun. He's a managing director and GP at Scale VC, the building and investing in early stage startups, and he's from the wonderful state of Missouri, Columbia, Missouri. So if you're an entrepreneur, founder, or generally interested in building a tech startup, chat. So with that, I'd like to bring him on board. Hi, Brett. How are you doing today?
Hey, Gary. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again. Did you say this is your second session today?
This is my, I had a session earlier today. I actually did an interview this morning with, I'm a keynote at a conference in Chicago. So I did that this morning. I actually have one after this too.
Busy guy.
Yeah, we're busy. So I got a question for you. What in the world? Why did you go to Arkansas Tech University?
Yeah, I early on I had a dream to play football. Thought I was going to lose that actually. I had a surgery my senior year of high school called thoracic outlet syndrome, where my pec minor muscle was pushing on my rib, cut off circulation. I had a blood clot in my shoulder.
Oh my
God. I had to have my rib and my pec minor removed. And I mean, I missed over half football season. I missed wrestling season. Finally got back. I mean, obviously had to work my butt off and ended up getting a couple of Division II offers. Arkansas Tech University was one of those. So at the time for me, it was, as a child growing up, I had always had my eye on, I was always the competitive type and had a mission that I was going to play and made that happen. So that's why I went to Arkansas Tech.
And so what city is Arkansas Tech in?
Russellville, Arkansas, city that probably no one on this call has ever heard of.
No, I spent time in Bentonville, Fayetteville area. I don't remember seeing Russell. I used to go back and forth a lot between Kansas and Arkansas. I would buy Porsches. Actually, so what I did for fun, I was working with Hewlett Packard. I took a little bit of time off from my startups to get corporate experience. And I would buy Porsches on the weekend down in Florida. I would find really nice, fine Porsches, and I would drive them out to the Midwest and sell them. And so I did it a few times just because it was interesting. I love Porsches. Anyhow, I remember going up across the mountains into the Cherokee Indian Reservation and across Oklahoma. And a beautiful country, by the way. It's unbelievable. People don't realize that there really are natural wonders in Arkansas. It's a wonderful state. It's not like you think.
Yeah, I mean, it's I do miss that. Like, you could drive 10, 20, 30 minutes about anywhere you are in the state and go hiking. There's a mountain chain. Just about every state park has a really cool waterfall. So I do miss that. Kayaking was a huge thing back then.
I know, like the Ozarks, the lake. There was a lake up in Northwest Arkansas. I forget the name of it, but man, it was unbelievable. Like beautiful, beautiful, like a movie kind of beautiful.
Might have been Table Rock. There's like Table Rock in southern Missouri, Northwest Arkansas, and then we have Lake of the Ozarks here, which if you've seen the show Ozarks.
Yeah, I love that show. Is it real?
No, I mean it's honestly not really like the show. It's a very hot spot for vacationing now. There's actually more coastline at Lake of the Ozarks than California.
Really?
Yeah, it's there's a lot to do there. I mean, it's not just obviously you can go boating. There's a lot of ships or yacht type boats on the lake, which shouldn't even. I've never seen that many yachts on a lake before.
Like how big is a yacht for the lake? What are we talking about?
One of my friends has like a 63-foot boat.
That's
the lake. Yeah,
that's
and
actually for
yeah. So there's pool bars all along the lake, and people just drive up, park their boats, and then go up and hang out. So it's a cool, like, that's probably like one of Missouri's best kept secrets, to be honest.
It's amazing place. So that's interesting. And how deep is the water there?
Oh gosh, I don't know the answer to that question. I know it gets pretty deep though.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you got a 63-foot boat, man. You know, you got to be careful about where you're taking that boat, but that's incredible.
Yeah, they do some cool. I mean, they have boat races, like professional boat racing there. It's fun to watch. They'll have helicopters following the boats. They'll air it on TV. Yeah.
Interesting. So you did that, you know, you got your MBA, University of Missouri, Columbia, and then you get out. What was Jackson Brothers? What was that?
um, when I was an undergrad, I was working for a vending company. I was cleaning the warehouse and helping repave or fill in potholes of their horrible parking lot. Um, I did that, and I also worked at a tractor supply throwing feed bags. So I've come a long way since then.
That's amazing. You know, hey, listen, I was a security guard when I was in undergraduate, and in graduate school, you know, I had a teaching assistantship, so I taught a bit. But yeah, you do what you got to do. So you were in, you did audit and tax. So you did that at BKD for a while in Little Rock. What made you decide to do that? You weren't there very long.
Um, yeah, I went to school for accounting. Thought that, you know, coming from not a ton of like education on what careers were growing up, you know, you think of like CPAs, accountants as like this is it. You get into it and you're like, wow, you got to get an extra like 30 credit hours. You got to get a CPA. You don't really make that great of money. The work is not fun. I made it fun by, so I did audit and then I did tax. So basically for a semester in undergrad, what made it fun was I was like, I'm going to do more tax returns than anybody in this tax department. That was the only enjoyment I got out of it. And then I was like, you know,
You
this
wanted to
is,
compete with them.
yeah, it's like, but I can't do this for the rest of my life. And then it's like, if you're going to do, you know, thinking about like what's like the lily pad from like taxes and like what are the career paths. And so I was like, I got to figure my life out here. I'm not doing audit and tax. I'll get the CPA. I got a CPA, but I don't. The only time I ever used it was doing valuation work. Um, so yeah, I went on this journey trying to discover like what I was going to do with my life.
So then, why in the world did you go to Sandiston Golf and Beach Resort from May to August? Like summertime is so hot. You wanted to like barbecue or what? What was the deal?
So I grew up going there. Sandestin's beautiful, by the way. It's a 25,000 acre resort. They have 3 Champions golf courses, beautiful beach. And I had missed 2 accounting classes when doing the audit and tax internship that I couldn't take online. So I had to take them over the summer at a different university. So I was like, you know, what am I going to do while I'm finishing up these classes? So I was like, got a job down in Sandestin. Funny enough, just bought a condo down there too. So I still go down there frequently, but that's kind of the story with Sandestin.
And then you went into you did the Veterans United Home Loans. Then you went over to you can see the transition over Innovation, Missouri Innovation Center. You did that, and you spent 8 months. Not a long time, by the way. You were 4 months here, 8 months.
Yeah.
What made you decide to move around so much? You just not interested and wanted to move forward, or what happened?
You know, I was in this weird discovery time of my life and craving for something where I could really make a difference and not just be another cog in the machine. Um, when I was at Veterans United Home Loans, honestly had some really good experience there. It's a company that was started in Columbia, Missouri. Two brothers that went to Mizzou. Now the largest VA mortgage lender in the country. I mean, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. What I got to do that was cool was like really dig into. They were selling loans every week. I put a model together that took a insane amount of time. That basically said, "Hey, you can hire someone else, start selling loans every day, and you guys are going to save a stupid amount of money." Pitched that to the VPs. They started selling loans next day. So that was like that felt good, but it was like, what's next here? Like, can I keep doing this? around the same time, I had just taken a class. I was in an MBA program at Mizzou, and I had taken a class with a guy named Bill Turpin. So kind of story on Bill, he's a Mizzou alum, went to Silicon Valley, started a few companies, had like $100 million exit, worked with like Kleiner Perkins and some pretty big names, came back to Mizzou, taught this class, had a fund where the students were running it. You do the sourcing, the discovery on the investments, the diligence, and then recommend them to the investment committee. Last time he was doing the class, but still had about 800K left to deploy. So asked me to come work for him and basically run the sourcing and diligence and investment memos for the committee. So that's what I was doing at MIC, the Missouri Innovation Center. I mean, I had no background in this, but I was just very curious, obviously, and I fell in love with it. I was like, so right now, exactly what I'm doing in my job is I'm helping Missouri entrepreneurs who have a very hard time of finding capital, resources, and network effects get access to those because of me. For some reason, I'm like the barrier to these resources. So I fell in love with that, working with people who are extremely passionate about what they're doing. And I kind of had like wanted to break into the industry. But if you look at the landscape, it's like, if you go to Harvard and Stanford, like that's how you get in. Obviously I didn't go to an Ivy League school. So there was definitely like a time period where I was like, there's no shot. Like I can't get into this. I kept grinding. Obviously I'm here now. But that's kind of the story with Missouri Innovation Center. And the only reason I was there for 8 months is because we deployed the rest of the money over that 8-month time period. So there was no money left to deploy. And then I moved to working with one of our portfolio companies after that.
Yeah, I see you went to 208 Seed Ventures.
Yep. So that's kind of around similar time. I had met a friend named Jay Malik at a speed networking event in Columbia. Okay. So going into MBA, I thought I wanted to do management consulting, like every MBA that goes. So there wasn't a lot of presence at University of Missouri for consulting. So I started like a consulting group for the students and helping them get into management consulting. My advisor for that organization I started ran this thing called Missouri Business Alert, which they had a speed networking event every 6 months. So obviously I'm obligated to go to this. I meet this guy named Jay Malik, who's in Columbia because his girlfriend's in residency at Mizzou, and he's working for Rakana Ventures out in LA. So I meet him and I'm like, no way. Like I'm doing, venture related stuff at Missouri Innovation Center. I would love to get into this space. I just don't have the network. I honestly don't even know where to start. And from there, we became really good friends. He had started an angel investing group. I had actually we had about 10 angels. I'd recruited half of those from the community. He had his half from New York and California. We invested in about 5 companies. I got to learn a lot about how it's done on the ground floor at a VC by working with him, because he'd worked with funds in New York and in LA. So the knowledge gap, he was really able to bridge for me coming from Missouri. And to this day, like Jay and I are best friends. He's going to be one of the groomsmen at my wedding. So that's kind of the story with 208.
No, and then so you move forward. Then you're at the Legal Tech Fund. You're a summer investment. Well, it says a summer investment associate, but 9 months. So you must have liked it because you went from May to January.
Yeah, when I was at 208, so I was at MIC, then I worked with Paytient. So I was an early employee there, which is a fintech based in Columbia. They've been very successful now. They've raised about $60 million. I was doing product and pricing strategy when I was there. Had the opportunity to work with a guy named Darius Chesrad they had just hired, who was a partner in McKinsey. So for 6 months, I essentially got to be like a McKinsey analyst working with this guy named Darius to help get access to healthcare for a lot of people across the country.
That's fantastic.
Phenomenal company, by the way. Like they're going to be like the third. I could see them being the third unicorn to come out of Columbia, Missouri. But anyways, went and worked the Legal Tech Fund, and those guys, they took a risk on me. I didn't have the background they typically look for. They're hiring out of Harvard, Yale, Georgetown. So I didn't have that background. I think what was unique is I had a CPA, which a lot of accounting tech is kind of touching, like reg tech and legal tech. And there was another thing that we had started when I was there, a company called CapGain. So while being on the investing side, and it was really unique as well because they were getting ready for their first capital call. So I got to be involved before that happened, which was super unique, and see kind of, the discussions of raising from LPs. We started a company called CapGain. So I did all this discovery, all this article on this website for qualified small business stuff, which anybody in the investing space should be aware of, because if you're a shareholder in a tech company, you sell it in 5 years, you don't pay any taxes on it up to 10 million or 10 times whatever you paid for it. So I'm writing all these articles. All these people are coming in, employees, founders, VCs, LPs, and they're like, we have all these unique issues with QSBS. Realize that a lot of people aren't able to take advantage of it because their CPAs don't want to check the box because they can't get the info to actually back up that this is QSBS. So after that discovery, we actually launched a site. And about 3 months after launching the site, we started getting like 8,000 unique visitors on QSBS. And we're like, there's something here. So not only was I on the investing side, but I was also on the founding team of a company we had incubated, the Legal Tech Fund, which we had then invested in through Scale, and those guys are doing very well now with the CapGains company. Obviously, I'm not full time there or anything now because I run Scale, but they're helping manage some of the largest venture portfolios in the country's QSBS.
Wow, that's amazing. And then, so, what's this flyover tech? What is that all about?
Yeah. So the impetus of Flyover was, so if you think of Scale, we invest across North America, and we're not trying to just have like a Midwest brand. We're trying to have a national brand where we support founders. Like at some point you have to have, with our small team, you have to have some barriers. Like in the future, we'd love to be international. Right now it's just North America. Flyover Tech was an idea because I wanted to attach a brand where we could be a little bit more targeted towards folks out of undercapitalized areas now. But the biggest issue is if you think of places like Columbus, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, Raleigh, North Carolina, okay? They've got a lot of good people. There might be like a couple successful startups. There might be like one fund or a couple funds. But at the end of the day, it's just an average ecosystem. It's not a Silicon Valley. It's not a New York. But what if you connected all these different ecosystems? So you have all these nodes in the network that are really disconnected. Like none of them really work together. So the other idea with Flyover Tech was, hey, I'm going to connect all these different flyover ecosystems and create essentially our digital Silicon Valley across North America or internationally. We get a lot of people that join internationally. I've made a couple social posts about it. We've got over 500 people in the community. I've had founders reach out to me, and multiple have raised a round through Flyover Tech community. I've had multiple get advisors. I've had multiple get first customers. And it was literally putting together a one-page website with a brand around this ethos and then starting a Slack channel. Wow. And that's all it takes. Like it resonates with people. That's all it takes because it's such a pain point. Obviously, I'm so time strapped. Otherwise, I'd be doing much more with it, which I need to. But there's really something there, and people are like yearning for this type of community.
No, it sounds like, it sounds interesting. So how in the world, where we are today, how did you put together, I know you're the managing director and GP, but how'd you put together Scale?
Yep. So we skipped over a few things. I mean, I did some valuation work for a little bit, which was interesting. That was more litigation, sell-side M&A, and I was doing like technology valuations. But anyways, how I got into Scale. So my good friend Jay Malik, who I mentioned earlier, who took 2 8-stage ventures and then turned that into Countdown Capital, essentially. So like think of that as like his SPV that he rolled into, saying, this is my track record to raise a fund. Ended up becoming good friends with a guy named Willie Schlacks, who started a company called Equipment Share with his brother back in 2015. Company's been very successful now. It's based in Columbia, Missouri. It's now a top 25 YC company. They do a few billion in revenue annually. And he had gotten hooked up with Jay because Jay's fund focus was more on hardware technology, which is super relevant to Equipment Share. So after advising Countdown, they had started talking like, hey, there's been a lot of success in Columbia, but not a lot of people taking advantage of it. And Columbia is not the only place. There's a lot of places like Columbia, Missouri. So why not start an incubator, accelerator, or fund that can support companies at this zero phase to like a pre-seed? And when wanting to put that together, Jay had called me and said, hey, like, I think you're the best person to run this. talked to Willie, ended up starting Scale June 15th of 2021. 3 months later, we started a cohort,
No.
which we had. So a lot of work went into those 3 months of trying to set up the fund, source companies, try to figure out, what the hell is our programming.
Where do you find the companies?
Oh gosh, we've got a pretty we've been doing a lot of outbound, obviously, because we're trying to build a brand. Inbound starting to come up, but how I kind of hacked it at the early days was we had actually gone into YC had soon before this had launched this thing called co-founder matching program. All right, so you've got this network now of about 20,000 founders, and a good portion of them are technical with an idea in the US.
Yeah.
Reach out to every single one of these people who is looking for some level of support, co-founder, capital, whatever. And it was a gold mine of talent and network effects for us. So that was one way. Particularly in Colombia, obviously, we have an unfair advantage because we're the only investor. In Missouri, we're one of the only investors that kind of goes at that incubation or pre-round, pre-seed phase.
Yeah.
But Missouri is tough because it's almost like door-to-door sales, because a lot of the founders are almost like, they're not on Twitter, they're not on LinkedIn. You have to go to like events, you have to like go to 1 Million Cups, even though 1 Million Cups has the complete wrong audience. There's somebody there that knows somebody that's building a company that's in like the boonies of Missouri.
Oh, that's great.
And like it's really interesting. And if you think of the guys that started Equipment Share, which is a multi-billion-dollar company now, came from a commune in Fulton, Missouri. Like they didn't even go to college. Yeah, they didn't go to college. Like it's an incredible story. I mean, I would be surprised if there's not a movie about them someday. And that stuff happens. Like we're looking for those founders. Like it's not all about the pedigree. It's not all about, did you go to Harvard or Stanford?
You got to find out,
Google.
Can they get shit done or not, right?
Exactly.
That's when it's all said and done. So you're going down through this process. What's you told us a little bit about the Scale. What about Charlie Mike? What is that?
Yeah, so we
it's like a sub shop, by the way. We have sub shops that have two names like that here in Florida.
Really? So Charlie Mike is like a military term.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was an idea that was pitched when I was at the Missouri Innovation Center. We did not fund the idea. It had changed over time. The founder, Josh, had like reached out to me because of my finance background and wanted some help. So we had looked into this, and I was like, there's really something here, Josh. The idea was like financing closing costs on VA mortgages. And like a quick backstory on VA mortgages, it's the only one that's 100% financed.
Wow.
For veterans. So, but
and who finances it?
Companies that are licensed as VA lenders. So Veterans United Home Loans, the biggest VA lender in the country, is based in Columbia, Missouri.
Wow.
So immediately, when you think about fintech, all right, everybody wants money. It's more about, do you have the marketing or a niche customer base that you can resonate with, basically kill the customer acquisition cost, because that's one of the biggest expenses for lending startups. So like if you look at Lending Club, they spend $300, $400, $500 per customer they acquire. Yeah. So you decrease the customer acquisition cost, you get hyper focused on a specific community that you can underwrite better than anybody. That's a very good business model. That's what we're doing. So we ended up getting a banking partner. It took us a little while during the pandemic, but we got a banking partner. My role there, I was kind of CFO, COO type.
So what's a banking partner do? Explain to us why you need a banking partner.
Yeah, we need a banking partner, one, because we don't want to get licenses in all 50 states. That takes forever. So you immediately partner with a national bank, and that accelerates the ability to lend in all 50 states, because we had a distribution network where we could lend in all 50 states. Yeah. Informally working with Veterans United. So what we would do is we would go in and we would say, hey, as a loan officer for this VA, the number one reason you lose loans is because your borrowers can't pay for the closing costs. So they're 3 to 5% of the mortgage price. So if the average home today is $400,000, you're going to pay $12,000 to $20,000 in closing costs.
Right.
Most people don't have that in their savings account, and if they do, you're saying, all right, I'm going to deplete my savings account, move into a new home with no capital.
Right.
Can't get any new furniture. I can't do anything. Okay. So we would partner with these loan officers. They would go to our website, say, hey, does this work? Does this loan work with their DTI? Yes. Refer the borrower to us. So zero customer acquisition costs because they're referring the borrowers to us. And then they apply to Charlie Mike with their underwriting package from the lender. We don't even underwrite them. All it says is, are you within our credit score threshold, which was like 620.
You're just making money. You're rolling
yeah,
the money.
it's just so in 12 months we scaled that to over $1 million ARR in the portfolio.
Wow, that's great. I mean, that's part of it. So what are we doing? I know we're coming up to the top of the show. Tell me a little bit about, where you are with scale and what's a dream for you?
Yeah. So I think for us, right now we're still in the early innings. When we started 2 years ago, it was basically a friends and family we put together to kind of test our hypothesis in Columbia, Missouri, which is we want to back founders who are strengthened by struggle and do that across North America, and then support them with our unique approach, which is one, you have this whole like platform VC trend of, you help companies with network effects, you help them raise money.
Well, and most of the time that's like 95% of it, right?
Yeah, it is. But the unique spin that we could offer is say, hey, now we're not the only fund that does this, but it's like, hey, we have some partners who have built product teams of a few hundred people. They've built the largest equipment marketplace in the world. They've built SaaS products. They've built robotics, telematics. They've hired thousands of people, raised billions in funding.
Wow.
There's a lot of learning and insights that you can help. Like if you think of like the Dunning-Kruger curve of like, I'm super confident as a founder. You learn a lot.
Wait, Dunning-Kruger curve?
Dunning and Kruger curve. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, Dunning and Kruger curve. So like you think of like learning, confidence, okay, and then you learn like, oh wow, there's a lot that I don't know. Boom, you're all the way down here. It's kind of like trying to straighten it out by trying to accelerate some of those insights and learnings you might not learn until you're like 5 years into your company.
Well, I mean, that's the problem with the companies, and they may not make it 5 years because they end up going out of business because they make the damn mistakes. And if you look at it, it's the access to the network, trust and credibility, operational expertise, and the contacts. So access to capital, networking contacts, operational expertise. Most of the time, they don't have those because 70% of the time they're technical founders, especially in the tech stuff that I'm working on. And so they don't have those backgrounds and they don't know how to do storytelling. They can't tell a story that's interesting. A lot of times they'll over design their product because they think it needs to be perfect. And so they're always spending a lot of money designing it. And when in reality, they ought to be selling it and marketing it, right?
Yes. So I think it's very hard to find a team that checks all the boxes for technical, can articulate something complex that they've been in the weeds for to anybody, even your grandma. Build great products, listen to customers. Like it's hard to find somebody that checks all those boxes. And at the end of the day, distribution is more important than product, in my opinion. This might be a hot take, but I think the distribution is more important because you might have the best product, but if you can't distribute it, no one's going to use it.
I mean, the other thing is you don't get out of the door to sell it. Then the other thing is you don't do customer development to make sure people want to buy it. Because you can make a really interesting product that nobody wants to buy.
Yeah. No, that's true. And so what we do is we get in there's really 3 buckets. We support companies. There's like the incubation, first-time founder in Columbia, Missouri. There's like the still early stage, pre-seed, friends and family round, pre-round, or like the pre-seed stage. And then in a very unique cases, maybe dabble in seed. We do 50K to 200K checks, do about 12 companies a year, support those founders in perpetuity, and constantly trying to iterate our model and be ahead of where the puck is going. So I know we're supposed to touch a little bit on like early stage investing, and if you think about like what's kind of happened over the last few years and things that have been accelerated by some of this pandemic chaos and irrational approach to investing, well, there's obviously a insane amount of capital. There's 5x more capital now than there was 10 years ago. Okay. So it's easier to raise money as a founder in some cases. The second thing is the competition of VC funds. There's hundreds of more VC funds than ever.
Mm-hmm.
So the competition is forcing investors to keep iterating on how they support founders because they want to, obviously nurture a portfolio. They want to be able to win deals. And it's very hard. Like, you can't just be a thematic fund now. You can't just say like, I am a mental health investor, because
Right.
now there's dozens of them.
Right.
So now it's like, how do I support companies? Like, how can I accelerate this? How do I get the distribution? Like, that's why everybody wants to go to YC, because they have the greatest distribution network in the world. You join YC, they turn a switch on, they say, here's like 1,000 customers you can onboard from like our YC network.
Well, that's
and then if you think about talent, has made it easier to start a company. So remote work, overseas work. There's an ungodly amount of engineers now than there was, 10 years ago. Network effects are not a black box anymore. It's so much easier to connect with people on Twitter, LinkedIn, some of these digital communities, Slack. There's like new things coming out all the time, like coffee content, like different like founder communities. Knowledge isn't behind a closed door anymore. A lot of it's accessible now. You can go to YC Startup School and basically go through an accelerator for free. And then the last thing is like the cost reduction.
yeah.
If you think of like 2005 when YC was started, it cost, I don't know, $500,000 to start a company. Whereas now it's, I don't know, $1,000 less.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not about the funding. It's about whether or not you get the stuff to market, right? Like I said, going back to the point that the founders need to take the products and get them out to the market and get people, do their customer development to make sure it's something they want to buy. A lot of times what happens, they take it out and the people don't want to buy it. They don't grab it out of their hands, as my friends Steve Blank and Bob Dorsch say. And you got to grab it out. You got to go down through and do the storytelling, because 95% of creating $1 billion companies is storytelling, right? You got to be able to do the storytelling. So all those parts, and not a lot of people focus on it. The other thing is that they don't go down through and they don't do laser precision. They do a shotgun approach. And it's not like that. What you got to do is, from my perspective, you got to find those companies, go dive inside the companies, figure out where the strengths and weaknesses are and how you can help. Maybe it's adding generative AI. Maybe it's about helping them with some contacts with some high net worth individuals or families that own significant companies that can help. And if you do that, it changes the game, because it's not done much these days. VCs do it a bit, but they're so tied into their own personal things that they're not, and in my opinion, not the right amount of time is curating the companies. Because 9 out of 10 companies fail. It's not because they don't have a good product. It's because they don't have the right access to the market or financial capabilities to be able to run the company, or leadership capabilities.
Yep.
And so it's interesting. It's a dilemma. Listen, we're coming up. I don't want us to get cut off here. We're a little bit over, but summary, and then how do people get a hold of you?
Summary of what we do at Scale.
Yeah. What's closing thoughts?
Yeah, closing thoughts are, as an early stage investor, I think it's the best time to invest. There's a little bit less competition due to the slowdown. There's more talent in the market than there was 2-3 years ago.
How much has it slowed down, Brett?
Early stage, it's not terrible. Like, it's really just slow. Like, if you think of 80% of where venture dollars are going, it's like growth stage. So it looks like everything is just like come to a complete stop. But early stage hasn't quite slowed down. What's more slowed down is like angel investing. So it's a little bit harder if founders need to raise capital before that first institutional raise.
Yeah.
This doesn't affect everybody, because some can kind of be scrappy and bootstrap to that first institutional raise. But angel investing I think it's gone down. It's like back to where it was like 12 years ago. So that does have an effect. Which part of it's probably because there's not as many SPVs going on, which is probably a good thing, because I think a lot of people were getting some pretty bad deals with these SPVs, insane valuation. I mean, I saw some that were pre-revenue at $300 or $400 million valuations. But all in all, it's a very good time to invest. More talent, a little bit less competition.
More talent, less competition. Yeah.
More talent, less competition in terms of like who's taking your money. A lot of good companies right now. I mean, it's a great time to invest. I'm curious to see what's going to happen in 5 years from now with AI, because there's going to be somewhat of a window with this stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, 9 to 12 months, because people are trying to come out with it. The problem is, it's not a situation where you can, this is not like the icing on the cake. This is the internals. You got to figure out what benefit does this incredible AI have within a company, this hyper intelligent AI. Well, it can change everything, right? There's processes that can be done, ways to be able to look at your business differently. Marketing and sales can be profoundly impacted by this. So anyhow, it's a new world. The good news is it's a new world and we can do something about it.
Yes.
Whether in the show me state or you're in California, there's opportunities everywhere.
There is, yeah. Talent is everywhere and opportunities are not. So we're trying to make that happen where it is. I guess like last things on scale is, if you're building at the idea at early traction stage with technology, doesn't matter the sector. We're here to write a smaller check in the round, 50K to 200K, support those companies any way we can. I think it's definitely unique to be able to have guys like Willie Schlacks or Wade Foster is one of our advisors. He started at Zapier on board and be able to bounce ideas off them or just have an ear of, I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize is like when it's more than just like asking these guys questions, but it's actually being able to vent to somebody who's built $1 billion company and like that person actually listens to you, I think is really cool. Yeah, we're just excited to continue backing founders. We're not slowing down at all. We've done 3 deals in the last month and a half. So
wow, that's great. I love to hear this, Brad. It's good to see you today. I want to tell you, thank you for taking time out of your daily schedule to get together with us today. And thanks to all my audience for coming in today. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the host of GSD Presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. Stay tuned for another exciting edition coming back next Tuesday. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy, and I'll be back at you again soon. Thanks, Brad. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.